When I first met Michael, I thought he was the embodiment of stability, a successful entrepreneur, confident but not arrogant, and someone who could light up a room with his smile. We married quickly, perhaps too quickly, swept away by passion and the dream of building a glamorous life together. For years it seemed like that dream was real. We traveled, we bought a beautiful home, and eventually, we bought something Michael had always wanted, a luxury yacht. The yacht became his pride and joy. He named it Serenity. To everyone else, it was a symbol of our success, our love, our shared adventures. But to me, it became the stage where betrayal would one day perform its cruelest act. The first cracks appeared when Michael began hosting business gatherings on the yacht without me. At first, I believed him. After all, he worked in investment and clients loved the exclusivity of private parties on the water. But slowly, his invitations to me dried up. When I asked why, he gave excuses. It's boring paperwork, or just a quick client dinner. But then came the whispers. Friends mentioned seeing him at the marina with a woman who wasn't me, someone young, with golden hair and a laugh that carried across the deck. I brushed it off at first, jealous tongues, I thought. But the seed of suspicion had been planted, and it grew relentlessly. Evening, while Michael was away, I visited the yacht. My hands trembled as I unlocked the cabin. The first thing I noticed was the smell. Perfume, sweet and unfamiliar. The bed in the cabin was unmade, champagne glasses still sitting on the table. And there, by the dresser, was a silk scarf that definitely wasn't mine. It felt like the air was sucked out of my lungs. The yacht, the symbol of our love, was now a crime scene of betrayal. I didn't confront Michael that night. Rage makes noise. Strategy is quiet. I slipped the silk scarf into a Ziploc bag like evidence and started noticing the patterns I had ignored for months. The marina invoices, the fuel receipts on weekdays, the sudden habit of early meetings that required cologne and a pressed linen shirt. I combed through our shared calendar and his credit card statements, highlighting dates that lined up with clear skies and high tide. The yacht was not just a prop. It was the schedule for his double life I made allies without saying a word about betrayal. I brought coffee to the marina attendant, tipped the cleaning crew who handled Serenity, and chatted with the night security guard as if I were a lonely wife killing time. People tell you everything when you don't seem to be listening for anything. From them I learned the woman's name, Alina. A yacht broker's assistant who had started appearing on our deck with a laugh like clinking glass. She wore white sundresses and never carried a bag, only a phone and a lip gloss that left pink rings on champagne flutes. One afternoon, I pretended to forget my sunglasses on board. The cabin was tidier, but not immaculate. Betrayal never fully cleans. In the drawer by the bed, I found a hotel keycard, the kind printed with a palm tree and a 3-digit room number written in pen. I photographed it and left it exactly where I found it. In the galley trash, tucked under a fruit rind, was a receipt from a boutique, a bracelet I had not received. On the helm, the GPS still cached a route. A lazy loop beyond the breakwater, cutting the same figure 8 it had drawn 5 times in 2 weeks. Lovers circle the same water when they believe the world is theirs. At home, I drafted a plan with the precision of a voyage chart. I copied bank records, exported the GPS logs, and placed the photos in a folder labeled Maintenance. I called a divorce attorney, not to file, not yet, but to learn the currents and depths of this sea. "Gather proof," she said. "Be patient. Let him drive the boat farther from shore." So I did. I learned the marina camera's blind spots and how our insurance required the captain to log passenger names. He had written client where a name should be. Careless, arrogant, useful. Then, I invited Michael to dinner, on the yacht, of course. I told him I missed our old dates at sunset. He brightened like a man who believed he still controlled the scene. "Saturday," he said, kissing my temple. "I'll make it special." My pulse steadied. I smiled into his shoulder and pictured the scarf, the GPS, the pink rings on glass. The stage would be his favorite deck. The script would be mine. Saturday arrived with the kind of brilliance that makes the ocean look like it's painted in liquid sapphire. Michael was in his best mood, whistling while he loaded the yacht with wine and hors d'oeuvres. He kissed me on the cheek as though he weren't hiding another life beneath that polished smile. I played the role of the doting wife flawlessly. I wore a flowing cream dress, hair pinned softly, a pair of pearl earrings he had given me years ago. Reminders of the woman he thought I still was, the woman who didn't know. As the yacht left the dock, I watched his hands steady on the wheel, confident, certain. He had no idea that tonight would strip him bare. For the first hour, I let him talk. About business deals, about how Serenity was the smartest investment he ever made. I sipped my champagne, nodding, studying him like one studies a painting before tearing it off the wall. My heart wasn't racing anymore. I was beyond rage, beyond heartbreak. What filled me now was steel, steady and sharp. When the sun dipped and the sky blazed with orange fire, I told him I had a gift. I slipped the black folder from my bag and placed it on the mahogany table between us. He laughed at first, teasing. "What's this? Your secret love letters to me?" "Open it," I said evenly. His laughter faltered. He flipped the cover. Inside were photographs. Him and Alina boarding the yacht, her scarf caught in the sea breeze, his hand on her waist. Receipts from the boutique, GPS logs of his repeated routes, and finally, the hotel keycard. His face drained of color. He stammered, "This isn't what it looks like." "Stop," I cut in. My voice was low, steady. "Don't waste your breath. Every lie you prepared is already written in here." I tapped the folder. For the first time in our marriage, Michael was speechless. The sea wind whipped around us, the yacht rocking gently, but the silence between us was louder than the waves. "You brought her here," I continued, "to our yacht, the symbol of our life, and you thought I would never notice? You thought I would remain blind while you painted lies across the water?" He opened his mouth again, but no sound came. His hands shook as he tried to gather the papers, as if scrambling to collect the pieces of his exposed deceit. I leaned forward, my gaze unflinching. "You turned our marriage into a stage for your performance. But tonight, Michael, I've rewritten the ending." Michael's mask shattered right there on the deck of Serenity. His shoulders sagged as though the weight of his own lies had finally crushed him. The confident husband, the charming host, the successful entrepreneur, all gone. What remained was a cornered man gasping for excuses that would never surface. "I can fix this," he muttered, almost to himself. "It didn't mean anything, it was just a distraction." I laughed, not with humor, but with the rawness of disbelief. "A distraction? You called her your escape, Michael. You wrote it in texts while I was putting our children to bed. You bought her jewelry while I cooked dinners you never showed up to eat. You gave her our yacht, the one we built with sweat and sacrifice as your private playground. And you dare call it a distraction?" He flinched at my words, eyes darting to the horizon as though he could jump overboard and swim away from what he had done. But the sea, vast and endless, offered no refuge. I stood, letting the wind whip my dress around me, the setting sun casting a crown of fire at my back. "You see, Michael, you thought betrayal was invisible on the water, that the ocean would swallow your secrets, but it didn't. It carried them back to me, tide after tide, until I couldn't ignore the stench of them anymore." He reached for me, desperation flooding his eyes. "Please don't do this. Don't ruin everything we've built. Think of the kids." I pulled away, slipping a small envelope onto the table. Inside were divorce papers, already prepared, already signed by me. His name was the only thing missing. His trembling hand hovered over them like a man staring into the abyss. "You already ruined everything we built," I said, my tone calm, almost tender, but edged with steel. "All I'm doing is setting the wreckage on fire so I can finally walk away from the ashes." The waves lapped against the yacht, steady and indifferent. Somewhere in the distance, gulls cried as the last light bled out of the sky. Michael sat frozen, broken, staring at the papers as if they were a death sentence. For me, they were freedom. The silence on the yacht that night was heavier than any storm. Michael stared at the papers, his fingers twitching as though he wanted to rip them apart but lacked the strength. I could see his mind racing, calculating how to salvage his empire, his reputation, his illusion of control. But every calculation led him to the same conclusion. He had lost. Emily. His voice cracked. "I can't let you do this. You'll destroy me." I tilted my head, studying him the way one might study a painting of a man who was once great, but now only a shadow. No, Michael. You destroyed yourself. You chose her. You chose deceit. I'm just documenting the evidence of your choices. He slammed his fist on the table, the glasses rattling. For a moment, the arrogant man resurfaced, the one who thought the world bent to his will. But then his shoulders fell again, like a sail collapsing in windless air. He looked smaller than I had ever seen him. I'll give up the yacht, he offered weakly. I'll end it with her. Please, don't leave. The irony almost made me laugh. The yacht, his sacred monument, the very stage where betrayal had unfolded, was now his bargaining chip. But it was worthless to me. It had already been tainted beyond repair. I leaned closer, my voice a whisper cutting sharper than a scream. The yacht is already mine, Michael. It always was. I checked the deeds, the contracts, the titles. You put my name on it years ago to avoid taxes. You gave me the very weapon of your undoing. His face turned ashen, realization sinking in like seawater flooding a sinking ship. That night, I didn't shout. I didn't cry. I simply gathered the folder, the papers, and the envelope, and left him sitting there beneath the dying sun. I walked off Serenity as though I were walking out of a mausoleum, leaving the ghost of our marriage behind. When I stepped back onto solid ground, I felt lighter, stronger. The ocean no longer roared with secrets. It whispered freedom in every wave. Michael's empire had been built on lies, and it collapsed on the very deck he had worshipped, and I was the one who walked away, unbroken. In the weeks that followed, the ripples of truth spread like waves after a storm. Michael tried everything: calls, emails, even showing up at my mother's house where I stayed with the children. But each time I met him with silence. Silence that said more than any angry word ever could. The yacht Serenity became the symbol of his downfall. He no longer hosted parties there. He no longer paraded his success on the water. Word got out, through whispers at the marina, through colleagues who had seen too much. Alina vanished from his life, leaving him with nothing but rumors and a reputation sinking faster than an anchor. Meanwhile, I began to rebuild. I sold Serenity, not because I needed the money, but because I refused to carry his shrine of betrayal any longer. The funds went into a new home, one where laughter could echo without the shadows of lies. My children thrived in the change. They saw me smile again, saw me dance barefoot in the kitchen, saw me free. At night, when I sat by the window with a cup of tea, I thought about the woman I had been. The one who believed her husband's charm, who trusted blindly, who ignored the warning signs. She was gone. In her place stood someone stronger, sharper, and untouchable. Michael lost everything he valued: his lover, his reputation, his control. But I didn't lose. I transformed. Sometimes when I catch the scent of the sea, I remember that night on the deck of Serenity. The folder on the table, his pale face, my steady voice, and I smile, not with bitterness, but with triumph. Because betrayal may wound, but it also forges. And I walked away not as a victim, but as a woman reborn.